When a sound wave collides with an eardrum, it triggers a physical chain reaction, sending an electrical impulse down a nerve pathway. Science can measure this external stimulus and track the physiological response with extraordinary detail. We can map the neurological transmission and identify the specific brain centers that light up the moment a signal is processed. But even with the physical map, we encounter a limit. Science cannot locate the entity experiencing the sensation. The inquiry moves past the mechanism of data transmission. It asks, who is aware that a signal has been received? There is a distinction between the electrical activity in a nerve and the first person subjective experience of saying, I hear. This identifies a gap in our understanding of reality. We can describe how the brain processes the world, but we struggle to define the subject whom the world becomes known. The Ashtavakra Gita provides a systematic framework for dissecting this identity. It centers on a single declaration. You are pure consciousness. In the original Sanskrit, this is Chaitanya. This consciousness is described as uncontaminated. It is the changeless field in which all changing things appear. This differs from our psychological identity, which fluctuates based on new experiences and memories. To understand reality, Ashtavakra Gita suggests we stop investigating the objects of the world and redirect the inquiry towards the truth of the one who knows the world. The deduction begins with a rule. Whatever you can observe cannot be you. Existence is divided into two categories. The object or jada, which is inert and changing, and the subject Chaitanya, the consciousness that knows the object. Consider the difference between using an object and being that object. When you put on a shirt, the shirt is an object you wear. You are the subject using it. Changing that shirt does not affect your underlying existence. This logic applies to the human body. The psychological form is a temporary composition of nature, constantly cycling through air, food, and water. Because you can observe your own body, noticing a hand or a reflection, the body belongs to the realm of the object. If the body is a changing object that you are capable of observing, it cannot be the ultimate changeless subject. Isolating this subject requires a logical algorithm known as Neti Neti, or not this, not this. We apply this to the senses. Vision or hearing can fail, yet the capacity for inner awareness remains. Because the senses are known, they are objects of observation. We apply it to thoughts. Because you can notice a thought arising and disappearing, that thought is an object known to you. This logic eventually confronts the personal identity we call I. Our dreams and ambitions are reorganizations of past impressions and conditioning. Because you can recall your past and observe your own memories, memory itself is just another known object. When the body, senses, thoughts, and memories are stripped away, what remains is the irreducible presence of consciousness. This changes how we view the universe. Physical perception depends entirely on the instrument of observation. Change the scale and the object changes shape. Visual appearance is often a delayed projection. The starlight we see left its source millions of years ago. We are observing a historical image. Ashtavakra Gita uses the term Mithya to describe this. Mithya refers to something that appears and functions in our experience but lacks independent existence. This is illustrated by a wave in the ocean. The wave exists as a temporary form, but it has no reality separate from the water. Subtract the water from the wave and you are left with nothing. Just as the word water cannot quench thirst, human conceptual labels are not the reality they describe. The physical universe is a dependent, fluctuating appearance, masking a changeless truth. This explains why a single event like rain can produce joy in one person and frustration in another. Psychological states do not reside in the event. They are generated by the conditioned memory and expectation filtering the event. The Ashtavakra Gita links karma to kartutva, the psychological sense of being the individual doer. When the mind says I act, it follows that I own the action. This ownership binds the person to the suffering or pleasure of the result. Attempting to fix individual problems like jealousy or fear is like plucking leaves of a diseased tree. The inquiry identifies a root for this conflict, mistaking the pure observer for the localized ego. Psychological suffering and karmic baggage belongs entirely to the ego that claims ownership of the event. The separation between subject and object was a provisional tool to break initial confusion. In the paradigm of Advaita or non-duality, there are not two separate realities called matter and consciousness. Imagine a room. The walls create an apparent division between the space inside and the space outside. When the walls are removed, two kinds of space do not merge. The space was never actually divided. Similarly, the body acts as a temporary wall, creating the appearance of an individual self, but the underlying consciousness is universal. The physical and psychological universe exist within the same pure consciousness that you are. If consciousness is the changeless field in which bodies appear and disappear, it is not born or destroyed with them. An unborn self has no point origin from which to be reborn. Attributes like biological gender, nationality, and personal karma belongs to the temporary form, the body, rather than the observer itself. This leads to a shift in the goal of liberation. While conventional paths focus on achieving freedom, Ashtavakra Gita presents the self as already free. Bondage is revealed as a misunderstanding, the mistaken belief that you are a limited physical body-mind complex. Liberation is the immediate direct recognition that your true nature has always been eternally free.